So the book, this story is about. It's about a. So I'm only on page. I think I'm only like 3 pages in, but it brings up interesting questions. So, it's regarding a child, born in a village. The child is about 2 or 3 years old, and the child knows everything. It knows, let's say for there was an example regarding twigs, and regarding twigs, normally the normal practice would be, um, picking out maybe 3 twigs and then adding 2 more on the child's hand, and then the child would understand the mathematical procedure of addition and of adding things, numbers. So there would be an understanding of numbers first, and then an understanding of the mathematical process. Um, is that even? Okay, I don't know. I don't know if it's mathematical process or arithmetic process, but he understands addition. Um, so he knows that 3 plus 2, let's say, is 5. So he has 5 twigs in his hands altogether after the addition of 2 from the original 3 that he had. But then this child, this different child who knows how to answer questions, answer everything with infinite knowledge. I'm assuming he knows where he knows the official names, he knows the source, where they were originally from. He understands the cultural values. He understands what deities are involved with this tree. He understands survival tips regarding this tree, what specific attributes a certain tree has over the other that makes it favorable for hunting, for example, or let's say what aspects of this tree has edible parts that the villagers can consume. It's safe for human consumption. And after finding about that, that's brilliant, right? It's insane for a 3-year old to have an answer that most adults don't have. So, and then they stretch that, and one of the words that they used is protasis. It's the way of constantly, I'm assuming, used in this context, from continuously asking related questions, survival tools, for instance. Let's say for them, they asked about where this certain root was. I think it was cassava roots, where it's located from, where they can go to find plentiful of that certain root, or when is the best time to hunt this animal, or why do they only migrate at a certain time of the year, etc. Very So after asking such questions, now they start asking for judgments, essentially, profound judgments that they can, for instance, I think one of the examples was, if there are 2 people at a certain hunting place or a certain gathering place, and both found the food, and then they both touched the food. Who has ultimately, who has the authority? Do they have to share, or is there, or does one party have the advantage over the other, have the more say over the other? Now, the reason why I say this, well, first, it's a fascinating concept, because now we have a child, we have a 2-3-year-old with vastly less experience, it's unprecedented for a 2-3-year-old child to have this sort of knowledge. So we have experienced adults that have profoundly more knowledge, profoundly more experience, profoundly more interconnected network of knowledge, asking questions to something, a being that has none of that. And then we also, what does it call it? We're also like, I'm trying to connect this with AI, because that was the first thing that I thought about, because a general a general understanding of ASI, or artificial superintelligence, which I'm going to safely assume will happen in the foreseeable future. It's that it's going to have answers to everything, answers to ending world hunger, answers to ending global warming, answers for space exploration, what sort of fuels, how to safely land on different planets, how to achieve beyond light speed travel, etc. Um, but the thing is, for an object that is capable of such thought, is going to see our problems as very mundane, very childish problems. Let's say for you and me, how we are able to just solve mathematical questions like 3 plus 2 equals 5. It's very mundane versus something that you might learn in later in your high school, college years, multivariable calculus, or you know something like that. It's a very different concept. So that's what kind of, and are we, when we depend on this one being for all this sort of judgments, then it's an interesting thing to think about. Is it reliable? Is it ultimately reliable? Just because it knows everything and a little bit more than us, is it reliable? And another thing that I wrote down was, because the answers are seemingly absolute, like we know that this being is transcendent, a 3-year-old thinking about knowing everything, literally everything, like I just said before. If it touches upon sensitive areas such as religion, um, in this aspect of village, would they reject this child's answers? Would they banish him forever from existing because it doesn't coincide with their own current beliefs deriving from their own personal emotions? What would happen? I think that's an interesting thing to think about, because what if one of the answers that the purported artificial superintelligence for ending world hunger is to limit the number of children that we have. So, um, you know, or it could lead to potential eradication of certain demographics of people living in certain certain areas of the world. Think about that. Like, at that point, what would happen? I mean, I'm assuming it's definitely a controversial solution if such solution is to be proposed, because no one's gonna, how are we gonna just kill millions of people, even tens of millions of people if that is such an answer? Are we going to follow that? Um, And it's an interesting thing. Even if we have all the answers, are we going to really, are we going to, as human beings with such feelings, are we going to, selfishness is absolutely the first thing, right? Because that's the most important thing in survival. Let's say there is, there are two animals, right? Two animals, and then there's a food in the middle. The animals are going to kill each other to get that food. They're not going to share. There's no concept of sharing. I'm talking about wild animals. It's an interesting kind of thing that to think about. I don't know. It's just those were little things that I thought about when I was reading. This is very interesting. So we'll see how it happens. one of the things I remember. So I this is the what's the this is the fourth story, I think. Yeah. So this book Oblivion by Oblivion Short Stories by David Foster Wallace. It has multiple different stories inside, and this is the fourth chapter or fourth story. And I remember the first three being it left. So it's they are disheartening. They leave leave a different trace of sadness, of revealing a very distaste distasteful feeling in your mouth. um Not so I'm not obviously not I'm not saying that I don't like the stories, or I'm not saying it's not that. It's it's about realizing how terrible um the human mind, the human understanding of expression can be. Or maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just my mind. Um, that's understanding this in a very difficult way, as in a very pessimistic way. Yeah, you guys have to read this. This is very interesting. When we think of things to be very simple, this is my personal opinion about. So when when we have solutions that seem simple, right? Like, oh my God, why hadn't I thought of that? It really, so I don't I, so for me, when people say that, it could be understood in a positive way, in a supportive positive way, but at the same time, it kind of reveals another aspect of um, the seeing something that's it's kind of degrading, um, when people say, why hadn't I thought of that? That's so simple, you know, because it's not a simple thing, you know. It's not a simple thing, and it feels like they're they're taking the answer to be simple. Um, shoot. For instance, let's take an example of these two cups, right? One has a handle, one does not have a handle. When you when let's say, hypothetically, you are from you're from a place in the world where when you've only seen this. And one of the questions, let's say, a board of members, they're having a meeting, a business meeting, and they are the manufacturers of this cup or any cups in matter. And one of the solutions that one of the board members finally gives is, hey, what if, and okay, one of the questions that was brought was, how can we make this more fashionable? How can we make this cup better suited for the customers? How can we do something different about this cup that will instigate this chain reaction of consumers wanted to purchase this cup. Um, and one of the questions, that was one of the questions, and one of the answers was, well, how can we make it more approachable? How can we make it more more supportive for the customers? And it was a question that many people, it was a question that's been bothering the team, bothering the company for many years. Excuse me. Yeah, actually, yeah. Let's put it like that. Many years. And then someone who has just been promoted on the position. He's been with the firm for about, maybe, let's say, 2-3 years, and he's been promoted to a position where the promotion places him to a status where he is able to have a voice, have an opinion in the board, and he suggests that, hey, what about this? What if we put something on the cup that is friendly to our native fingers, and most importantly, our opposable thumb. So he builds a prototype, and he, puts this side by side. Like, hey, what about this? He does this. He's like this, and this looks fairly simple because it looks like a door handle. It looks like a door handle that you can just, in a door, that you, everyday things that we use. It looks like a door handle that is right there. For example, in the board of directors room, in the board of the meeting room, the doors are shaped like this, like an opening kind of thing. So for people, it looks deceptively simple. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Wow, that's so simple. But it's not. There's a big difference between applying a knowledge of something that's already existing to another knowledge that there's a big difference of that. And I think when I hear people saying, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I, that's such a simple solution. Why didn't I think of that? It's supportive, obviously. It's a supportive statement that I would think of, but at the same time, it's also deceptively degrading in a way. I don't know. That's how I think, and I think that's what is happening here. So one of the reason why I thought of that was, let me read the sentence. It says, the point, however, is that the exceptional child's answers to these sorts of questions were without fail so ingeniously apposite, I think. Is that how you pronounce it? Apposite? Apposite. Okay, it's not apposite, it's apposite. Apt in the circumstances or in relation to something. Apposite. So, well put is opposite. So ingeniously apposite and simple and comprehensive and fair, that all sides felt justly treated, and often the litigants could not understand why they had not thought of such an obviously equitable solutions themselves. And in short order, a great many long-standing conflicts are settled and perennial social conundrums resolved. Now here, listen. And by this time, the entire village had come to revere the child, and had collectively decided that the child must be in fact a special emissary or legate or even incarnation of the primitive dark spirits on which their pantheistic religion was primarily based, and some of the village's shaman and midwife cast as members of what would later become the new social structures, professional consultant caste, claimed that the child had in fact come spontaneously into incarnated form deep in the circumambient rainforest, and had been suckled and protected by divinely mollified jaguars, and that the child's putative mother and father had in fact simply stumbled onto the child while out gathering cassava roots, and were lying about its having been conceived, and therefore and born in the usual proto-mammalian way, and were therefore, of course, also by extension lying about their own legal paternity. Doesn't that just leave a bad taste in your mouth? It leaves such a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, alright, I'll see you guys in the next video.